So, what is going on, guys? This is Ryan here.
And this is the Ryan here.
Hey everyone, Razbetsky here.
What's going on, guys? Dawkbro here.
And this is going to be the 5th episode of Theory Thursday? Or Theory Friday in this case. So, we got a bit delayed, guys. We was all pretty busy this week, so we still wanted to bring it all for you, so we just did it a day later, and we hope that you guys, can still appreciate it. We're sorry it's a day late, but we'll try not to make that same mistake next week. So, we're going to be jumping straight into the topics for this week. So, what are those topics of the Ryan?
Okay, so the first topic we're going to be talking about is Chica's nostrils. Now, the overall theory of today's podcast is debunking things.
Yes.
And this is the first section, Chica's nostrils. Now, I'm not too sure on what the debunking is here, but I believe people think that they're different animatronics. Is that correct?
Yes, that's it.
So basically on Reddit for Five Nights at Freddy's, there was an anonymous person who posted the comparisons between Chica from the past games and this Nightmare Chica, and he was saying that the other Chicas don't have nostrils because he was using pictures from the game where you can't see them. In the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 2, Chicas, their nostrils are very high up at the top of their beaks. And this Five Nights at Freddy's Nightmare Chica are very low. But he was saying that they were confirmed to be like the same kind of animatronic. Like he was saying, FNAF 1 Chica or FNAF 2 Chica is definitely Nightmare Chica, but he didn't realise the fact that the nostrils are in completely different places, and they don't even look the same anyway. The head shapes are completely different.
So yeah, I think the most likeable one out of all of them is going to be the Nightmare Chica towards the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Withered Chica. I think that's the comparison a lot of people are starting to make, isn't it? Because they both look similar, but there's still a couple of key distinctive features which kind of render these guys as different animatronics, isn't there?
Yeah.
So
I was thinking, people thought that the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Withered animatronics and the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 animatronics are different. But I don't think they are they? They're just... Because they actually reused the Withered ones into Five Nights at Freddy's 1, didn't they?
Yeah, they did change some features of them.
Yeah, especially the Freddy character.
Yeah.
It's like a completely revamped one, and
yeah.
I think the Withered Bonnie is the only one that's most likable to the other two counterparts, because it seems like on the Withered Chica and the Withered Freddy, their heads seem to be very enlarged compared to their bodies. When you kind of compare it to the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 versions, where everything seems to be more in kind of a proportional scale, but the Bonnie character is the one which remains the most similar out of all of them.
I think it's over time when we are comparing and contrasting the different generations, because we don't exactly know where how the Nightmare animatronics come in, so it's good that everybody's going around and comparing them all, but from the comparisons we've seen, we haven't seen any of these Nightmare animatronics before.
Exactly.
The heads are completely different shapes, as we're talking about here, the nostrils, just because they're not in a similar position, we've already established that the Nightmare Chica, the head is a different shape. It's a different shape from the rest of them. That's not something that's going to change over time. So it's just a different design, and the texture as well. We need to remember the texture of these Nightmare animatronics is very similar to spring traps and nothing that we've seen before. I
suppose it's a good idea that people kind of comparing that it might be this animatronic and it's not. I suppose it might give you a judgment as to the time era of these Nightmare animatronics. I mean, the 87 is definitely a key component in it all, and a lot of people are linking the Withered guys to these new ones. So it's kind of helping us almost portray the fact that these Nightmare animatronics definitely do come from the era of 87, and that this seems to be the definite time era alongside the Withered guys. So these could be like a previous build just before, and that's maybe where the inspiration came for these Withered guys then, because they do look awfully similar in their overall design. Yeah. So I suppose kind of like the final suggestion could be is that all these guys of course had the 5 fingers, and maybe the newer guys were kind of upgraded to then have the 4 fingers for like a safety feature or something. Well,
I think Patrick Fisher, one of our top commenters on our videos, he actually left a comment saying you can't really see the Nightmare Chica's hand in the teaser. It looks like she's pointing like that almost. But he was saying that that it could possibly take from the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Withered animatronics, because we know it's to be based in 1987, and the Chica in 1987 didn't have any hands. I love how he's saying he likes how he's, for the Bonnie and for the Freddy, it's really enthusiasing the hands that they've got. Like Freddy's holding a hat, Bonnie's clawing it like this, but with Chica you can't really see the hands. So it'll be interesting to see if we see Foxy, if it does come out, Nightmare Foxy, in the same state it was in Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
I think what'll be interesting for Foxy is if we see him with a hook. Don't you? Yeah. Not 5 fingers, just with the hook. It's going to have to be the hook, isn't it? It's going to have to be, not the definitely. 5 fingers, but... I think that's kind of debunked that whole theory, and hopefully, guys, this has kind of given you a couple of ideas as to where these Nightmare guys may have come from. So this next section is actually talking about the release date. Now, I know that the majority of the community have settled on pretty much the release date being of Halloween, but there's a couple of theories going around with the whole, involving 87 definitely, and maybe the entwinement with that, but there's a couple more as well, which people are starting to begin to suggest that maybe the game is due out sooner than we may expect.
Yeah, I believe that people are thinking that the ones we see in the teasers of the Nightmare animatronics actually represents like slashes, I think.
Yeah.
And they're saying that it's going to be released the 30th of May, I think.
Yeah.
So, in 2 days' time.
That would be a very quick game, wouldn't it? I think that would be the quickest turnaround for a finale of the whole game franchise I'd ever see. That would be impressive, to say the least.
It would be pretty insane if that was the case. I think lots of people are obviously really excited for the game and they're wanting the game to come out as soon as possible. And we know what Scott's been like in the past. He released Five Nights at Freddy's 2 early. He released Five Nights at Freddy's 3 earlier than anybody expected. So I think everybody's just wishing and hoping for something, so they're just pulling theories out of the thin air. And
that was close, wasn't it?
Yeah, close. Trying to keep this as PC as possible. They're just looking into things in a lot of detail, which I love. I love it when people do that. But
yeah, it's awesome.
It specifically says in many places that it's going to be on Halloween this year. Yeah. So
I think
he wants Scott to take his time, and I think it will be the Halloween.
A quick thing I want to say just before we continue with this topic as well is that I think the biggest issue with this whole release date thing is how people make these fake images with different release dates and, misleading information and things like that. And sometimes, there's some really crazy artists in the Five Nights at Freddy's community, so some of them are actually really believable, and some people do actually believe this, and it can corrupt the community ever so slightly. It's not in a serious way, but I think it can give people false hopes, which is sometimes nice, but, sometimes it's nice to only be presented with the true evidence. So just make sure, trusty website resources, mainly Scott, of course, himself, giving out this information. Remember, guys, Google Chrome is the easiest way to actually alter code in a website. You can change absolutely anything in the expect element, and it can become so legit and real. It's one of those things, but guys, just be very wary of that. Now, let's jump back onto this.
IndieDB says it's going to be released the fourth quarter 2015, which is October. There's something
October,
else.
November, December.
It says release date.
Absolutely,
you've got to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So there's all these little things starting to come about, and it's pretty much apparent that it's definitely going to be October the 31st for Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter. And that also confirms the question we're all having, is that we're going to see a lot of teasing. I think that is going to be the case. There is obviously a lot of things Scott wants to share with us before the game's release, so we have a lot to be excited about over the many months before the game's release. So this next section is talking about the purple guy and the pink guy, and whether or not these are two different people or the same guy.
Yeah, now a lot of people believe that the purple guy and the pink guy, maybe the pink guy is actually a younger version of the purple guy. Yeah. Obviously, we ourselves can't confirm this, but it just feels so wrong that Scott has these different colour palettes for these different characters, because as we know in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the purple guy stays to his true colours, like as we see in the Save Them minigame. He's that dark, deep purple kind of colour with white, distinct pupils. And in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 minigames, obviously he doesn't have the badge, but he has the eyes and the same colour. So why would Scott kind of change the colour of these two people? I mean, definitely it got to be different people.
Yes, Scott is very deliberate with his storytelling techniques and the way he colours everything in the game. As you can see in the mini-games in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and 2, the purple guy is a very deep purple, as you said. And then we've got this other guy who is... he's very much a lighter shade, which is just a little strange. He wants... If he wanted them to be the same guy, if he wanted them to be exactly the same guy, he would use the same colour over and over again. He's very deliberate, he's very clever with them. And I know some people are saying the pink guy is a younger version of him. I don't believe that, to be honest. I think he would still... You don't just suddenly change your whole skin colour as you grow older. You know what I mean?
Precisely,
especially in something as... Because it's got no text, you've got no text, it's visuals only. The easiest way to associate one person with another person is to have them looking exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, the pink guy, in that way, has to be different. I know a lot of people are also saying that he could be The purple guy is when he's got the job there, and that's his uniform, so it's the purple. Whereas if it was the pink guy we saw killing the first child, the puppet, then would he not have the same colour head but the purple uniform on? So you would still see his head, it's the pink, and the body would be the purple, and I am done.
Great, yeah, I think going off that as well, we have to think about the FNAF 2 and the 3 version, because the purple guy is the same colour, even though shots we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is like 1983, 87, I can't remember the exact, it might be 87, excuse me, but then we see the establishment closed down, that is Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and that's like 10 years later. But the purple guy is still the exact same colour, and yet we see this pink guy, and there's a lot of connotations linking this pink guy to a different character altogether as opposed to this purple guy, and I think one of the most obvious things is in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, we know the purple guy to still definitely be alive, but in the parts and services room, there appears to be some kind of skull on the table. So this skull could actually be maybe the reminiscence of, could be the pink guy or possibly another character.
I've just thought about that, Ryan. And Raz, you remember doing some guy hacked Five Nights at Freddy's 2?
Yes.
And there was a skull. Do you remember that? And it said Mike's. It said Mike. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, really?
If this is from the FNAF 1 establishment, you never know. That could be Mike's skull. But anyway, the differences between Pink Man and Purple Man as well. They've got different head shapes, and if you actually compare them with each other, they're actually different heights as well. They do have different similarities, let alone the colour and the eyes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The pink guy's a lot stockier as well.
Yeah,
I think he's got bigger shoulders. He lifts.
Purple guy's very. he's got.
Goes to the gym.
Yeah, the purple guy's a lot slimmer, isn't he, in his overall design? Definitely it seems to represent two different characters, and I think because the purple guy's almost had his closure in FNAF 3, but we know there's going to be a fourth one. There has to be a primary driving force in the fourth one, it's just, you know, it's storytelling and it's at its kind of best, really. You have to have the finale featuring like the main character, and if this is potentially going to be the last one, then we may see his demise or possibly an uprising of him. And I think whatever the way, it will probably confirm a lot of things or definitely debunk a lot of things in regards to this topic.
I mean, who's to say that it's going to be a good ending anyway? I mean, it's
the
bad
ending was the first ending we got in FNAF 3. You know, you never know, really, do you?
I mean, that's what I mean. If you're saying like it could be an uprising of the pink guy, it could like you know, just ends on evil. I don't know, something like that. But I reckon, like, I think we've talked about it, like, obviously, you know, Scott makes, like, he made Christian games before he made Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, it's just, the contrast of what he's doing now is absolutely terrific. But there's obviously like a meaning, some kind of. It wouldn't surprise me if we found references of the story in Five Nights at Freddy's to references in the Bible or something like that.
Yeah, we've done that before, haven't we?
Yeah, there's been many things we've found before. So I think confirming that, I think maybe each of the games may have some kind of deeper message entwined with them. And I think maybe the fourth one might almost entwine them all. And it might create some really kind of proof-worthy links with it all. And I think that's going to be really interesting about the fourth one. But I'm really interested for the fourth one. Whilst the gameplay is like a really good factor of the FNAF series, I think the story has become something so much more than what most semi-indie / AAA games have become. I mean, it's not got the time to develop the FNAF 4 series for it to, I suppose, be branded as a AAA, but the storyline within is really in depth. Okay, and so to finalise, we're going to be talking about film teasers.
Yes, so this is actually a section that Raz really hates.
I don't like it either, to be honest.
Let's let those two elaborate. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Well, basically is a lot of people have been thinking and are still thinking at times that the teasers on scottgames.com are linking to the film. As opposed to a Five Nights at Freddy's 4 game. I don't know if they're new people to the channel or new people to discover the teasers themselves. I'm not putting anybody on blast here at all. It's mainly just a thing, just to clear up the point that the teasers on scottgames.com for Nightmare Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie, they're definitely for the game. If you try and save the picture by right-clicking on it, it saves as 4, and if you go onto indiedb.com, you will see that they're linked for Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's an interesting idea to kind of be posting these film teasers on the website, but the rights to the film is actually with Warner Bros, isn't it? So
he wouldn't be in charge of marketing or advertising.
Exactly.
They may give him some rights to do it, but that's probably very unlikely. They'd want to do it. They've got their own marketing team. They've got their own driving force behind it all. They'll put fucking Bonnie's face swore tits.
And again,
Bonnie's face on a bus, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a totally different form of marketing. I mean, Scott has primarily used his website for pretty much all of his games. He's used it for games before Five Nights at Freddy's as well, and it's become a tradition now to see these teasers before the game's release. So it'd be a bit of a drastic change to know that there's this 4th game coming out called Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter, and then he starts posting some film stuff now. Especially, it might be very confusing, especially with the series being at its highest point. I think that it's going to be out with, of course, the finale. This is it, and I'm pretty sure Scott doesn't want to confuse anyone. He wants to keep it very kind of a straight message, I suppose you could say. And I think it's all definitely veering towards the next game. The art style seems the same. It just, so many factors are kind of limiting it to only be based on the game. There's too many factors for it, and there's pretty much none against it, really.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, we've studied media, Ryan and I. Ryan more than I, obviously, but it takes a long time to make a film, and the fact that it's only just been announced that they're only starting to write the film. Yeah. It's probably going to take
is the longest portion aside from post-production, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Then there's filming and just editing, special effects, stuff like that. It'll probably be out at the earliest. It'll probably be out early next year. No, well,
I mean, when you think about it, I think a good example is for those of you guys who actually know of the Angry Video Game Nerd. He had been doing a film for a long time. It took him around 18 months, and he's one of these kind of indie developers too. And he got his name there, but it took him a long time to make the just the content. Still, a lot of the shots will take a long time to perfect, and especially with these nightmarish animatronics, I can imagine this is going to be a lot of VFX and visual effects kind of incorporated. And that is what takes the longest time out of everything.
One final point as well, real quick, is a lot of people are thinking just because it says final chapter, they're thinking that this is the end game in the series, but there could potentially be games before it. As in, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 isn't the final game because it says final chapter. They're believing it's like the end of the story, so he'll release Five Nights at Freddy's 5, the prequel, or Five Nights at Freddy's the beginning. It actually says on IndieDB.com as well. NDDB. That's the one.
Yeah, it sounds very strange to say.
It is, because I'm confusing it with another site. It does say on his IndieDB page that this is the final installment as well. So it is the last game.
Yeah. So there we have it, guys. That was an interesting discussion. It was a different take on what we normally do as well, with the Nightmare Foxy being a little bit delayed. So we speculate anyway, but we hope you guys did enjoy. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation going around the community currently. It's nice to kind of hopefully veer you guys off of the wrong track. For those of you who got a little bit confused along the way, and just bring you back onto some of the harder evidence and just things that we already know. We hope you did enjoy the video, guys. Be sure to comment down below if you did. And if you're new around here, why not subscribe to each of our channels, because we make some great content. And yeah, thank you very much for watching the video, guys. And we hope to see you on the next week's episode too. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.